I spent, Wendy, a lot of my life being very, very selfish, thinking about myself and myself only, and only moving the way I needed to move to benefit what I wanted and how I wanted things. It wasn't until I fully gave it up and said, hey, you know what? Like, you got to stop doing that. You got to stop thinking about yourself. And what about all these other people? What about the people that you could be hurting them? You don't even know what's going on. Like you're just kind of doing your own thing. And he's like, you need to open up and you need to start talking about what it looks like to give back to others. As I'm working and helping others learn who they are, I'm learning who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm really building off of that main focus is I was put here in this world for a purpose.
Pono.
What's going on?
Can you say your entire name for me?
Pono Nakane Okekai Kanako Le Pau.
That is such a cool name. I know it has really strong Hawaiian roots. You come from Hawaii.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. We have so much to talk about. We have so much to dig into. I know you have a lot, like a big history and heading into your introduction to power slap, but let's start there. So tell me about your background, your connection with your Hawaiian roots, and let's start there.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm originally from Hawaii, born and raised on the island of Oahu. My family comes from a big family. So I have 9 siblings. It's huge.
9?
It's huge. Wow. Right?
Football team.
Big, huge. So my background comes from the Hawaiian culture. My family comes from the descendants of the king. And we were there to teach him along the way, right? With not me, myself, obviously, but people in my family along the line in my lineage have taught the king how to defend himself. So in the art of lua, which what we practice as warriors, to become the security guards or the Hawaiian Secret Service is what we say. So my family comes from a huge background of dance. My grandma or great-great-grandma is...
Really fast, can you explain that? So tell me about defending the king.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, I don't know.
No,
I've never heard of this before.
So our family was like the original teachers to King Kamehameha the First, the original teachers of the art of lua, and lua is the modern day MMA that you see nowadays. Bone breaking style movements that were really taught to them to defend the island, and defend the culture, and defend the race. And my dad was the very first one to kind of open that up and tell us about our lineage and where we come from, and that we're descendants from kings, that we've been around for a very long time teaching the art and being able to really impact the way that the Hawaiian culture has moved around nowadays. And it's an amazing thing to have that as my background, having Hawaii as my backbone and part of my culture, and to be able to be considered as a warrior.
So you have 9 siblings. How many brothers? How many sisters?
Oh my gosh, 4 sisters, 5 brothers.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So did you all go into some type of fighting area, martial arts?
Some of us, yeah.
Okay.
Some of us. A lot of us are more just we're in the modern day, right, where it's more of we didn't go into the fighting aspect of it, but more of just the other background of taking care of the land, really going out there doing agriculture work. My dad still goes out there and he, harvests limokohu as a part of his career and part of his job, and that he goes out there and he does those things. And my mom, right now, she's currently helping with a lot of mental health people that they live in this house or a place that they obviously get monitored at that time, but she's always been a gifted person and always giving back to the community itself. Yeah. So she's out there helping now, but we come from the land, the fishing, the hunting, and really just we're very, very resourceful.
This is so neat. is your whole family pretty much still in Hawaii, or did?
So kind of going a little bit back is that the family that I'm speaking of right now is my real blood family.
Okay.
They're originally from Big Island, raised on that side, on the Hilo side. And I was adopted at a very young age. And I was raised with my aunt and my uncle.
Okay.
So kind of digging more into the story is that I didn't know my real family for a very long time.
So your siblings?
All my brothers, all my sisters, I thought they were my cousins. And my real mom and dad were...
You just gave me chills.
Yeah, it gets me every time, especially when I start to think about it and talk about it, is my real mom and dad at one point in time were just trying to figure out life. And my aunt, she was going through a point where, she was having some health complications and she wasn't going to be able to have, she has children of her own, and she wasn't going to be able to have kids anymore. And my mom really opened that door to saying, hey, you know what? Just being her sister. And that's kind of like a normal thing in the Hawaiian culture it's called, your hanaid, is that we're, the gift of giving. So my mom, was able to allow my aunt to have me as a gift.
Oh my gosh, it's giving me chills.
And and it played a big part in a lot of what's going on now, the shaping of me and who I am now as a person, and understanding what they've been through. All those things of, just fighting these little battles in between. And now at the end of this I look at it differently now. Before, I thought it was more of just something like, why me? Mm-hmm. And why was I the one out of 9 kids to be gifted to another family, right? And I just couldn't make sense of it. But now I understand it as I had the opportunity to have 2 moms and 2 dads. And all the sisters and all the brothers. And my family is expanded bigger than what it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, you know what's so fascinating about the way that you told that is something I picked up on is you could tell that this is all done with love. A lot of people, when they say they were adopted, it's a totally different story. You led with, I have 9 brothers and sisters. I have this amazing family. We protect the king. We're descendants of the king. The whole entire base of your story was you and your family being connected. Mm-hmm. And it was after that you talked about being adopted. So it doesn't seem like it's a normal adoption story at all. It feels to me like the whole family is connected with so much love, and you all were sharing that together. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing about the Hawaiian culture is that we try to keep it really close and tight knit. Just in any culture, in any family, you're gonna have times where things break apart and people move away, and it slowly starts to shift away from everything, and the parties aren't the same, and the family get-togethers aren't the same. Yeah. But what we can guarantee is that there's always going to be love. Yeah. And there's
I have a question because you seem to retrospectively really be able to take this in super maturely and be able to understand it all. But it sounds like there was a time when you didn't totally understand it. It did affect you. Tell me about that, and then what was the switch for you? At what point? What was the moment where you kind of were able to understand what was going on?
I think the biggest switch in my life was having my daughter, and then being able to take on a life of my own, a different life, right? And really try to start and create my own. And that was a big turn. Having my daughter was a big thing for me. And even at that moment, I'm still young. I had her when I was like 18 or 19 years old, just fresh out of high school, kind of just going down that not so much of a path, but more of just kind of wandering around in life, not having an exact point to land on, and trying to find my way, trying to find what I was supposed to be doing in life.
And that helped you understand your family dynamic a little bit better?
It did. It helped me put points on things, really just drop in certain areas, okay, this is why this has been happening, or why I feel a certain way, or just not having not having in the very beginning, not having the stronghold of a family and kind of the unknown, and then letting it come to play and, you know, be brought to life, and then realizing that I went on a rebellious stage for a while, that it was just me against the machine, and I didn't want to accept anybody else around me, and no, this people are not my family, and this is my real family, and I really try to make sense of what was going on in my life. And I feel like those moments in time has really shaped me to be the person that I am now. You know, being a father. I have a son, I have a daughter, and those are two big parts in my life that I always put first.
I can tell.
And that's where, like, okay, we can't keep on making the same mistakes over and over and over again. At one point in time, you have to mature. You have to figure out what's going on with yourself, how to fix it, and what we need to do to accomplish that. And now, at this moment in my life, giving all these other opportunities that have kind of flowed in and, you know, really just rose me up, now it's that time where my message doesn't fall on deaf ears. You know, it's not to myself, and it's not to my family, and it's not to somebody that's really close to me, but now I get to share this with the world and really put it out there, you know, and that was a big thing, is that I needed something of a solid, steady rock to be able to always look back on and be saying, hey, you know what, that's some place that I was, and some place that I wish that at the end of the day, I wish I didn't experience all those things. But I know that by experiencing those things, it's really done the best for me. It's shaped me to be the best version of myself, and to understand that I don't have to do all those things ever again. And, you know, coming from a place of anger, coming from a place of hatred, you know, and not understanding what was going on in my life. And now it's a little bit more clear. I wish that it didn't take so long, but
your journey is your own.
It's the part of the process. It's
your own unique journey, you know? And let's actually talk about a little bit about, so you were talking about how all of a sudden opportunities started flowing. That does not happen by accident, right? We don't just all of a sudden just like out of nowhere just start getting opportunities. There was a shift that happened for you. There was an energy shift. And I want to talk about that. But first I want to know, when did you move here from Hawaii?
2012.
Okay.
2012, we moved to San Diego.
And you became really close with one of your brothers, right?
Yes. So it's my older brother from my adopted family.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's who originally
that makes sense.
Shifted and moved us here to California, but to San Diego. He was in the Navy. He switched over from being in the Navy, retiring, and going into being a federal officer for MCC San Diego. Met his wife, had a child, decided to move my mom and my dad here, and they've been here longer than I have. And you know, try to make sense of what life looks like for us. And shifted my mom and my dad here, you know, gave me the opportunity as well. Said, hey, you know what, this is probably be the best thing for you, is to shift out here and to live here. There's no obligation. You can do whatever you need to do, but try to make it make sense for you.
So from Hawaii to here, first impressions, what was the first?
Wanted to go back home immediately. That's
what I was wondering, because with such a strong rooted, you know, background there, I imagine it would be hard to just get up and go.
And still having that younger mindset, you know, a younger mentality of like, well, my friends, what am I going to do? How am I going to, I can't operate, you know? And I feel like a lot of people are like that. Once you get introduced to something so new, that you have all these moments where you start to have that pushback. Oh no, I don't want to do something like this, even though that is exciting and it could be something that's going to be, you know, beneficial to myself. I kind of just want to be back at home. So for the first 6 months living in San Diego, I try to find every single opportunity you could ever think of trying to get back home. And my first job was working at Delta Airlines and working for the airport.
Yeah.
So that
I have a question though.
I could get flight benefits to fly back home.
Oh yeah. Okay. I want to talk about that, but really fast. I want to know why did you decide to move? Why didn't you stay? It sounds like you wanted to stay, but what was the?
I was at a really bad point in my life where I was making a lot of bad decisions.
Okay.
I was going down that, you know, criminal pathway and not realizing how fast things were moving, that I couldn't make the ultimate decision of like, okay, well, I need to shift back and go back to how I needed to be, where my life seemed a little bit more balanced.
You weren't thriving. You needed like a change anyway.
I needed a change. I needed a change. And when I left Hawaii, I have to be honest with you, it really hurt my heart because my daughter was one of the biggest things for me. And
tell me about that.
I made the shift. I made the shift to move to San Diego during that time, and
she was still there.
And she was still living there with her mom, and they were going through their thing of just kind of taking care of her and figuring out what was going to happen or how this was going to work. And I had some of those moments where I rage against the machine. I'm thinking like, hey, you know what? Well, this is what's going to happen, and just having so much control of my life all the way up to that point, and then not having that anymore. So I try to regain it. I'm like, okay, I got to take back control of what's going on. No, that's not going to happen. No, this is not going to happen. This is how it's going to be. And, it led me down to making the wrong decisions, going down the wrong path, and really trying to figure out who I really was as a person. And
so you made the wrong decisions. You don't have to talk about it, but if you want to, you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk about it.
I'll keep it.
That's okay.
Disclosed, just kind of out of the way, because
you're like, you're moving on. You're moving forward.
Yeah.
It's all in the past.
We put that behind us, and we're moving forward, and we're looking at really shaping the future of what our life looks like.
I really believe in that. I think that, sometimes you have to completely move yourself into a totally different place, like shift your entire world, make such a huge change that you're forced to change. So you basically forced yourself to change, came here 2012. And what was your first, kind of feeling like this is where I need to be. This is my opportunity.
So like I said earlier, I mean, it wasn't, that shift didn't really happen. Even with me moving to San Diego, it didn't happen yet.
Yeah.
I still had that feeling of I had to go back home. I miss my friends. I miss everything that's going on. I miss my daughter.
Yeah.
I need to figure out my way back so that way I can try to make things happen. And I've noticed along the way that as a person, I like things done. I'm pretty sure other people are like that too, but I like things done fast, quick, and in a hurry. And finding the right answer as soon as possible. And in all those times that I was doing all these things, I wasn't finding the right answer. I was trying to make things happen as quick as possible, and not really knowing why or what I was about to do. And that's where things have to be dialed back. I have to really think about what kind of moves I'm going to be making in this next couple of years, next 10 years, whatever it may be. And not to say that we think that far, but I just knew that I needed to find something else different, find something else. And not to say that Power Slap was the thing that was the difference. There has been so many trials and tribulations and errors along my way and mistakes along my way that have really brought me to this point of like where, I've had these failures, and now I'm able to see it for myself and be able to speak on it. And if other people out there in the world have that same problem, same issue, we can speak on things like this to be able to help others get through their lives and what they're going through. And I found it to be the point where it was going to be the most impactful thing that I've ever done in my life.
Right.
Was being able to go out there on a stage or perform or be a competitor and really go and meet other people, talk to them, and see how their lives were. Originally it started off with me chasing the title. I can't lie to anybody. I wanted to make myself well known, and kind of fed for it. Just okay, well, this is what I want to do. And when I got the opportunity to be on season 3 Road to the Title, it was my open door to go in there and really experience things with other people, really sit down with them, listen to their stories, and see what they were going through, and being able to relate.
Well, speaking of which, it's hard because I don't really know what your struggles were. I'm trying to figure. You said you went through some struggles. I'm trying to put the dots together, but without knowing exactly what your struggles were, it sounds like you went through quite a bit. And I would say just moving, shifting to a whole new area, that alone, without even knowing like what your struggles were, that sounds like a struggle. You know what I mean? Because that's a huge life change, right? But I actually want to talk about, before we get to your, amazing power slap abilities and all the crazy things that you've done there. How did you get introduced to power slap? Like, what was the first conversation? Tell me, what was the first thought in your head? Give me the whole like very beginning of this whole operation.
So it started with me meeting a friend back in 2015. Okay. His name is Esteban, and his uncle was one of the first slap fighters on season 1, Azio Rodriguez.
Okay.
So that's where the spark had happened. And
what year was season 1?
This was 2021.
Okay, got it.
2020-ish, 2021. Okay. It was just after COVID.
Yeah, that's
and he was the very first person to kind of really introduce it to me. He, we saw his uncle compete on season 1, and then we still didn't take it into mind of this could be something really amazing. Until his...
Be honest, what was your first impression of it?
Of power slap?
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it. I don't get attached to a lot of besides the UFC, and following people from Hawaii, like Max Holloway, BJ Penn. I really didn't think anything of power slap. I thought it was something amazing for maybe the next generation of Islanders, and it was a sport made for Hawaiians at that point in time, but
there's a lot of Hawaiians that come into power slap.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
And it's something that as Islanders or as the culture, right, as Hawaiian culture, is that the battles and the warrior like mentality is always there. So
is that why
I thought it was going to be a perfect introduction for all the Hawaiians to be able to jump into this sport and create something different instead of, not a lot of people are going to make it to the UFC. There's a skill set, there's talent, there's hard work, there's a different type of dedication that is needed to be able to be successful in the UFC. And power slap is on that, not say lower end, but it's on a more on the beginner side,
right,
where you can kind of get introduced to something that doesn't require a lot more training than you would do in jiu-jitsu or wrestling or any other combat sport. And it allows you to excel. You can go out there and train and figure out ways to run the technique better.
I think of track. So I ran track, and I think of indoor track. The races are a little bit different. There's a 40-yard dash, a 40-meter sprint, right? And there are, 10Ks. So if you think about a runner who gets in shape to run, a 10K race, versus somebody who gets in shape to run a 40-meter sprint, I mean, it seems like, it happens like that. 4 seconds, boom, like the sprint is over. But the training and the need to be at the top of your game, even for a 40-meter sprint, it's kind of, I look at it kind of the same way, looking at all the track and field events, there is a unique skill set that is required for pole vaulting and for,
Correct.
discus throw and for hurdles and for a 10K versus, a 40-meter sprint. It's kind of the same thing. It still is in the family, and it requires a lot of skill, a lot of training. But it's like the really quick, instant gratification event under the umbrella of, I would say, kind of the UFC arena.
Yeah, and I agree. Power slap. So with the training side of it, right? You don't have to train as hard as a UFC fighter, but you still have that same opportunity to go out there on the stage and be able to showcase whatever skill set you have, whatever technique that you've been building up. And a lot of it has to do with just your basic overall general fitness.
Yeah.
If you have a good understanding of general fitness, even a background in personal training, you're going to understand biomechanics. You're going to understand how your body works, how it moves. The biggest part is the recovery.
Yeah.
you got to understand how the recovery works. Because if you don't know how to recover your body, you're not going to be able to get ready in time for all these events that are just happening one after another. You have an event that happens every 2 months.
Yeah.
And
your face looks like it's intact. How
that's a good way to put it.
How is your face after getting slapped?
It's fine. Yeah.
Really?
I had minor bruising underneath my eye. It brought a little bit of swelling, but I think the biggest part of that is that because I practiced and I practiced the technique on bracing, and I knew what I was doing when I went out there. That's probably the key that led to this. I mean, proper placement on Cooper Housley, right?
Yeah.
Wherever he hit me and wherever he struck me.
We're going to talk about that. But we got to backtrack still, because I don't want to like jump past you getting onto season 3. Tell me about that. About being with Dana White on season 3, the drama. Give me the whole 411.
So we got introduced to it from Azio Rodriguez, and then from there, my friend Esteban said, "Hey, you know what? You look like the perfect person, the perfect person for a power slap. It's like you should put your application in." And he also was looking to, get into.
You do, by the way.
Thank you. But he was also looking to get into power slap as well. So he thought that, by putting in the application and trying to reach out to, Erica, which is the main matchmaker for power slap, reaching out to Erica and trying to talk to her about what it looks like and how does this all work. We already seen that Azio had made it onto season 1. So now we know that if you don't have a background, if you don't have any kind of MMA background at all, seasons are how you're going to make it into the sport. Right. And that was our main opener right there, is that we knew that if we put the application in, sooner or later, somebody was going to call, or in hopes somebody was going to call and be able to set us up. And from there, kind of transitioned to where my brother, he has a pro MMA background. And this is now not talking about my adopted brother, but my real blood brother.
Okay.
So one of. So he has a pro MMA background. He has fought in multiple different events like Cage Warriors, LFA, X1. And he transitioned also from Hawaii, moved to the mainland, shifted around a bunch of times, but ended up in Arizona. And he thought that it would be the best for him that he made the attack to come to San Diego and try to open up that MMA world here. And because of the connections that I've made, because I have a background, I worked for the UFC gyms back in the day. So because of my background and because of the career that I had chose, it was an opportunity to open up those doors so that way he could speak to other fighters and get into other gyms. And we tried that out for about like 2 or 3 months. Then he realized that, it wasn't perfect for him, made the transition. He moved back to Arizona. And this is, you're talking about 2022, rounding around to 2023. And by that time, I already had submitted an application. I already had tried to reach out to Erica about getting onto Power Slap, and I wasn't hearing anything back. And it wasn't until my brother had made that transition back around in 2023 that we started to take it a little bit more serious. We wanted to get outside of the whole MMA background and taking punches and kicks to the face and having to defend on the ground and just really just one-dimensional it. Just go to just only doing one thing. So he decided to do bare knuckle boxing, and I thought it was a great idea.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Thought it was a great idea for him, and he did really well. He went out there and he competed and he did really well in bare knuckle. But my brother is also just like me, so he decides that he wants to move fast and he wants to move in a hurry. So makes let's do an MMA fight just after the bare knuckle fight. Let's do an MMA fight. Well, that MMA fight ended up being in California. So now he makes the transition and comes back around. He goes out there, he performs. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way that we thought it was going to go, and he ended up losing that match. And that was that moment where I told him, I said, "Hey, look, I don't think that MMA is not to say that it's not your calling, but it's not something that we should be looking at right now. We should make a shift and we should make a change, and let's open up some other doors. What about Power Slap? Let's talk about that." So we opened up the conversation, talked about it.
What was his first reaction to that?
His first reaction was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was successful in bare knuckle. Let me go back to it. You know, he had already signed a 3-fight contract with bare knuckle to be able to do that first. And now we're just trying to iron out all the things of like, okay, well, how do we not stay in the bare knuckle realm and we get out of that?
Did you ever do bare knuckle?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. So I've done training. You know, I have a kickboxing background, Muay Thai background, but I've just never taken it to the point where became a fighter, and then made it into the UFC gyms. So the UFC gyms was kind of my outlet to that, right? Being around people that train and do MMA, talking to people that, you know, that were really invested in something like that, and meeting a lot of great people here in, in San Diego. You know, San Diego is the mecca for MMA. There's so many big names out there. There's so many gyms out there that are really, you know, pushing out their fighters. And we see it nowadays, you know, that all these new events that have been coming up, a lot of the fighters come from San Diego. They do. And I thought it was going to be a perfect timing, perfect place that we just kind of take away from whatever we were doing and try to blend it into Power Slap. Let's do something with Power Slap. Let's see how it goes. So, you know, jokingly, I put an application in for him. And he didn't know nothing of it. And I get the response from Erica, you know, hey, you know, we would love to see what opportunities we have for you. And
both of you?
Well, not even both of me. It was just him. It was just him. And it was
wait, did you submit an application for you too?
I submitted an application.
So you and your brother got the call back.
So I submitted my application in 2021.
Got it.
And then I submitted my brother's application in 2023 when he made that roundabout and came back to us.
And he didn't know.
And
he got a call back.
Well, I got the call back.
You got the call back.
I got the call back, and I ended up talking to Erica for the first couple times. And then that was when I, you know, told him, my brother, I was like, hey, look, we got to try to see what Power Slap is going to do for us. Okay. Oh, well, I'm so pot invested in this. I think you should do this. Well, why do you say that? It's like, well, here, read this email. Oh, okay. They're offering us, you don't even have to be on the season. You can go straight onto one of the live events. So that's when he had the opportunity to compete on Power Slap 7, was that email right there. And he went out there and he fought against Joseph Landman. He was on one of the undercards of a non-televised event. And at that moment, you know, I get to go with him. Okay. And I experienced the same thing like when this last one with Power Slap 10, I took my wife, you know, to do the media, to do everything else with me, because she's my ride or die anyway. So I took her with me, about that. Right? And the same thing with my brother. So he brought me along, and, you know, and
one thing led to another. They wanted you too.
It's a crazy story because he really put it out there of like, he's that type of guy that just believes in what you put in the universe provides back. And I believe in that same thing too. But my brother was, without the plans, just kind of, hey, just come with me. Mm-hmm. Hey, just come out here. Come see what it is. You're going to be a coach, or you're going to be my manager or something, you know, just something along the lines of where he could get me in the door and be able to see everything that goes on in the Power Slap stuff. Because I was just really intrigued by it. I wanted to know what that world felt like. And sure enough, that's what happened. And Power Slap 7 comes along. We go there for the media, and I get to run into Erica, and I talk to her, and she goes, oh, you're his brother? Oh, okay. And she looks at me up and down and says, well, what about you? What about an opportunity? What do you think about Power Slap? Same question you asked me. What do you think about Power Slap? What do you think the future looks like here? I said, I mean, it looks bright. You know, my brother wouldn't have accepted it and came in if it wasn't for that, you know? So let's try to look at that a little bit deeper, you know, keep it really to small talk. And at that point, she was like, well, just look out for an email on Monday. And this is before the fight even happened. This is before anything even happened. My brother goes out there and he, you know, puts on a good performance, you know, puts Joseph Landman down. And, unfortunately, he got called for a disqualification for moving his feet and pivoting. So he really didn't get the win that he wanted, but it opened up the door to be able to see what was going on with Power Slap and see how everything was going. Mm-hmm. By Monday, she sends me the email, and it was for season 3 Road to the Title. Hey, we want you to be on this show. Pack your things, come out here. It's going to start in the next week or so. It's like, this is your time to shine.
Were you jumping up and down and running around your house?
Oh, I was.
I would have been.
I was. It just,
that feeling.
Nothing in my life besides having my kids at that moment in time, and being able to establish something with my wife and my family, nothing at that time would ever have that importance. And I felt like that was the most important part for me, because now I get to go and show not only just my family and my friends who I am, but now the world.
Yeah. And
really put myself out there and be, I'm a big dude, but to be vulnerable.
Yes.
To be vulnerable, to be open to anything that was going on, and really just experience something that was new.
Yeah.
I was that type of person before that new experiences scared me. It just scared me. I just never wanted to. I've always been used to a certain pattern, a certain way that I move, a certain strategy. And if anything broke that pattern, I would kind of go off tangent. And I realized that it's because of those new experiences, because of those trials and tribulations, because of those points in times that I was weak, that it created the mindset that I have now to overcome and try to be strong, be resilient, be adverse in everything. And I went through a lot of adversity.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think well, first of all, I think that you absolutely deserve the spotlight, but what's interesting about you is you are really supportive of everyone around you. You went there with your brother. You are, you have so much love and care for your family. Like, everything you do is for other people, but you knew in your heart that you deserved this. You knew that if you were in the right place at the right time, I think deep down inside, you knew that there was going to be an opportunity for you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you can't really admit that to yourself until after the fact. But when you look back, you probably realize that, wow, I really put that out there and I wanted it, and I made sure that I was in the right place at the right time. And then once it happened, you deserve that spotlight.
I spent, Wendy, a lot of my life being very, very selfish, thinking about myself and myself only, and only moving the way I needed to move to benefit what I wanted and how I wanted things. And it wasn't until I kind of gave up. And even still to this day, there's little points in times that come in where I do think about myself, but it wasn't until I fully gave it up and said, hey, you know what? Like, you got to stop doing that. You got to stop thinking about yourself. And what about all these other people? What about the people that you could be hurting them? You don't even know what's going on. Like you're just kind of doing your own thing. And he's like, you need to open up and you need to start talking about what it looks like to give back to others and to really impact other people's lives.
That's when the opportunity happened.
And well, in return, helping myself too, as I'm working and helping others learn who they are, I'm learning who I am. Yeah. And I'm really building off of that main focus is, I was put here in this world for a purpose. Yes. And God aligns everything the way it needs to be, because He is the main guy. He is the painter. He is the main person in this whole entire movement. And you can't sit there and constantly say, hey, it's me, hey, it's me, hey, it's me, when God is always working in the background. He's always doing things that you don't understand yet, but sooner or later, as you make the moves throughout your life, you will. Mm-hmm. He opens up your eyes, He opens up your ears, and he makes you realize that you don't have to be the same person that you were. You don't have to be the person that you think that you should be. You just have to be who you are. And that's it. And that's where it really opened up. That's the pivotal point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you lived a life of selfishness, and when you kind of let that go and you decided to be there for other people, that seems to be when the opportunities kind of flew in for you. Mm-hmm. Now, what I want to know, I know that your wife is your manager, right?
Yes.
She's a total sweetheart. I was able to, be in communication with her and get you here. But tell me about that, because I know that tell me how you two met. Tell me how that whole dynamic started and how you ended up where you are right now.
So we met through a mutual friend.
Okay.
My friend Derek Cruz was.
How long ago?
This was 2015, 2016.
Okay.
But my friend Derek Cruz was running the UFC gym in Spring Valley, and he was very close to one of the female fighters that, was in that area at that moment in time, and she had a fighter that was from a different state that was coming to visit her and train and, get her ready and get her prepared for other fights. And she wanted to be able to use the octagon in our UFC gym, Spring Valley, to be able to train this girl. And that is where it opened the doors to me meeting my wife, is that Derek says, hey, you know what, this is a good opportunity for you to, to talk to this person. I've already had, management experience from before. So now in 2015, 2016, he's saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to release all reins and I'm going to just go into personal training and I want you to manage. And it's like, and the first thing that we're going to do is, we're going to try to get a lot of these fighters to come in the door and try to really bring up the name of the UFC gym. And it's like, and the first person is Carrie Kasich. Carrie Vera was Brandon Vera's wife.
Okay.
And at that moment, we're talking and he goes, well, she has a friend that she's going to be bringing in. And lo and behold, that's my wife. And she comes in there and she's, she's training with her and I see her. We really don't engage.
You just smiled so big.
We don't,
you started talking about her?
We don't engage that whole entire time that we're, she's in the gym and she's working out in the back and they're doing their own thing. Carrie's holding pads for the girl and they're training in the octagon, and it's just kind of like passing by the whole entire time. And I just don't engage with her. She doesn't engage with me. And I could see why, she comes from a solid background where, the way I look, the way I talk probably is just not her cup of tea at that moment. So it wasn't going to be a thing. And I was really focused on trying to change that gym into something that I would want for myself. If I was a business owner, I would want that gym to be like this or like that.
Yeah.
So that really, the introduction was made right there.
Okay. So what was the first time that you got the guts to ask her out?
Within the week.
Oh, you did?
It was in the week. So she was going through, a point where she had some back issues, right? And she was doing the workouts and I kind of see her there and I see her, grabbing on her back and I'm like, oh, hey, let's, you having pains? And she's like, yeah, well, I have lower back issues and all these other things. And she's kind of listing everything down. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Not even Wendy, 2 days or 3 days before even having this meetup with my wife is I just went to the massage therapist that's literally in our same shopping center as our gym.
I got a great person for you.
And I just met that lady. So I 2 days ago, 3 days before. And, but I've always been good at, really building things up. So I tell her, hey, you know what? I got this really great lady that does all these massages and she's going to take care of you. It's like, let's set something up. And my wife was doing a project at that moment where it included a virtual reality. So she thought that it would be a great idea to have somebody my stature, 260, 270 pound, just big, bulky dude, wearing a VR headset and experiencing this thing and watching me get scared.
Right.
So she thought it was a perfect match. So, we kind of made that as our excuse to talk to each other and to kind of link everything together. And,
of course.
And I was able to set her up with a massage with the lady that, owns that little massage therapist place right outside. And
the rest was history.
That was it. And well, I mean, I set it up to where it was a couple's massage, and it was
you did.
And it was a surprise on her half, and she, at that moment, just being her, she was like, well, should I go in here? I don't know if this is safe, this is not a good experience right now. And it's a massage, so it's really intimate, and she just thought that I was probably one of the bravest people in the world at that moment. And that broke the ice. That
It
opened up.
worked. She married you, right? It must have worked.
It worked. It definitely worked, and it brought us together. And then from there, it was just, that was all she wrote. We've been building on it since 2016.
That's awesome.
2024 now, and we're still rocking it.
You guys have such a great relationship, and she manages you now.
She does.
Which seems to be a really great dynamic. You guys work really, really well together.
Yes.
And with all your opportunities coming in, I mean, that must help a lot.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, just having somebody. Well, she's very, very organized.
Yeah.
You know, that was her main job forever, was to organize events, big things where thousands of people are there,
right.
and to organizing chaos. And she's really good at it, and she's always been good at it.
You're chaos, and she's organizing it somehow.
Oh, very.
Okay, so let's. I want to talk about Power Slap 10 because you were all the talk after that Power Slap 10. I did learn that you didn't have the chance to go up against the champion in your weight division because of the ranking system.
Correct.
But your knockout was very talked about. So tell me about your Power Slap 10 experience. Tell me about the knockout. Tell me about just all the hype going in and coming out and how that all sat with you.
Power Slap 10 was an amazing time. It was a time to reconnect with a lot of like the season 3 people that I've spent time with on the show, and all the new fighters, all the old fighters. So it was huge for me to be able to go out there and, in the back of my mind, really just try to put on the best performance that I can, be the best version of myself, go out there and do what I'm supposed to do. And it wasn't until that I would say 2 days, 3 days before, and you can ask my wife, is the nerves start kicking in.
Oh, I bet.
Not so much of who I'm about to face or what's about to happen, but more of like, it's something that's so uncomfortable, that feeling of being
watched.
You're on TV. People are gonna like you, or they're gonna hate you. They're gonna love you, or they're not gonna like you. It plays so much on your mental state at that moment. And for the 2-3 days building up to that media day and going there, because we arrived very early. We arrived on the 3rd and the fight was on the 6th, so we stayed there that whole entire time. And we get to go out and have these little events and things that Power Slap has put together, and also a lot of the people that do interviews and podcasts. They're all there, and they're setting things up, and Slap News and the Petty Corner, and they just want to be able to share the stories. So Power Slap 10 was probably the most amazing feeling that I've ever had, just because of the fact that I get to reconnect with all the people, go out there and try to put on the best performance that I can. Yeah. And like you said, it was a point where I'm coming off of season 3. My initial weapon was taken away from me during the season, not by anybody else's cause except for my own.
What does that mean?
So I strike with my right hand.
Okay.
And during the combine, where they test you for your neck stress test and for the power cube to kind of set you against your opponent in your same weight class.
Okay.
I go and I do the neck stress test, and probably just about, like 3/4 of the way through, somebody's yelling, "Hey, I think you got one of the highest scores." So I get up thinking, "Oh, well, I got the highest score." So now being very, not open-minded to what it is, but more of just kind of like, oh, well, time to show off. I look around, I see all the cameras, and I go and I punch my hand, like, yeah. But I end up catching the inside of my finger, and I break my own pinky.
Oh my gosh.
Oblique fracture. Clean cut all the way across. I snapped that thing.
Just by getting excited.
And just by punching my own hand, I break it.
Oh man, that sucks.
Everything in my mind shuts down. And I start to really think about, like, was I really meant to be here? Is this what was supposed to happen?
Oh no.
Is this the plan for me? And it settles and it settles and it settles, and I'm like, well, they're gonna send me home. This is my one opportunity, and I didn't even get to perform. I didn't even get to do anything else except, by my own mistake, break my own hand. And this is going to be too much for me. I'm going to get sent home. I'm a Cancer, so I'm very emotional. So at that moment,
I would have been.
At that moment, I'm like, man, this is it for me.
That's literally the one thing that you need is your hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you can,
And that was it. And so we don't say anything.
Did it cross your mind to use your left hand?
It didn't.
It didn't cross your mind.
It didn't at that moment.
Because that's just your main.
It's just the feeling. The anxiety starts to kick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh well, they're just gonna send me home. Oh well, this is it for me. All my stories up to this moment means nothing, and we're gonna shut it down. And I'm gonna go back to doing my normal 9 to 5, working in a gym, training people, teaching people how to do personal development and whatever it may be. But I mean, it's gonna go back to my regular 9 to 5 career instead of where I saw it was going to go.
So what happened after that?
So I break the finger.
Okay.
They put me, so finger gets broken. We go through the rest of the actual training combine where they do the setup for the power cube. And I'm standing in the left-handed line because now I'm trying to okay, well, I can't hit with the right hand. I broke it. The finger is snapped.
Yeah.
I have to hit with my left hand. And somebody catches me and they're like, hey, you're right-handed. It's like, you got to go in the right-hand line. And I'm like, no, I'll hit with my left. It's like, we can choose which hand we hit with, right? And he's like, well, just for, this purpose, you need to strike with the right hand just because the fact that that's your strong dominant hand, that's what you put down. Oh. So I hit the power cube with my right hand after the finger's already been broken.
And
probably messed it up a little bit more than what it was.
How did you do?
I mean, 31,000. I score a lot higher than that with my right hand, but it was on the low end. But
you didn't get cut.
I had to play it off. I had to play it off like I was going out there and just it wasn't no pain, nothing was affecting me, and they put me in the house after.
Okay.
And I'm there for 2 days. I'm washing dishes because, part of the duties around in the house to clean up and do everything else. And producer walks in and he's like, hey, let me see that finger. And I show him my hand and it's top to bottom purple. And he goes, yep, you're coming with me. We're going to the hospital right now.
Oh.
I jump in the car. They also load the person that's in charge of all the travel. And they're driving with me all the way to the ER to get this X-ray done. And she's telling me, oh well, we'll get all your stuff situated and get all your packet together. And obviously we're gonna probably end up sending you home because you broke your finger. They get the X-rays back. Yep, it's broken. And I look at them and I'm like, well, I got my left hand. Can I use it? Wait, what do you mean? You can strike with your left hand? Well, yeah, of course.
So it did cross your mind.
Yeah, but I also fibbed a little, I wasn't training with the left hand. I really didn't see anything. I wasn't hitting on any of my bags at home. I wasn't doing any of the proper training that, I wouldn't say call myself an athlete, but as somebody that, takes into fitness, now understanding that, okay, well, you have to train everything. You have to
So you wanted to get back to the house.
Right, you train your left, you train all of it. So
what was your game plan? Because you weren't planning on using your left hand.
Was talking about the left hand and saying that if I could use the left hand or not. And they go, well, have you practiced with it? I said, yeah, of course I have. And they go, oh, okay, well, we'll allow that. If you want to use your left hand, you can go ahead and continue with your left.
Okay.
So now it got me back into the house. And then and
you were just so determined.
That's all she wrote. And now that was exactly what I needed. I needed to have an opportunity.
Okay.
And now before my fight even comes up, before I even fight Devin Jenkins.
Hang on, before we get there.
Go ahead.
Did you slap with your left hand?
I did.
Okay, so you did slap with your left hand.
I did. Both fights in the season was with my left hand. It wasn't with my dominant hand.
See, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my first fight was a knockout in the second round. And I hit him first.
Okay.
I ended up clubbing or getting a very deep hit on his jaw.
Wow.
Where it hit the back part of the jaw instead of the lower end over the chin. Oh. And then he hits me. And then after that, I returned that favor. And that's when I knocked him out with the left hand is I think the biggest part was that I needed to shift the way that I was thinking about my delivery, the way that I actually go out there. I practice it so many times where I have this, what I call
Yeah.
You know, I've labeled the lean on one nation, but it's the lean on one. It's where you shift your body mechanics over to the opposite side of the target, and then shifting it back across and sending it all the way through the target. So as you create that lean, it gives you the opportunity to be all the way through your target and where you're supposed to be, instead of getting to your target and only meeting it at where it is. You need to continue and follow all the way through. So the lean on one, that's where it was created, was that moment and that time of like, okay, well, now I got to go out there and I got to deliver with the left hand, and I got to make sure that this counts.
You're so calm and nonchalant, but let me tell you something. This is an incredible story of resilience and tenacity. You wanted to be there. You wanted to be in that house. You were willing to do whatever it took. You broke your finger. You came back from the hospital. You lied about being able to hit with your left hand. You ended up lifting with your left hand, you ended up slapping with your left hand for the first time, and you did well. And that was your first practice.
4 days.
All you wanted was just to be there, and you were willing to do whatever it took. And you're really cool, calm, and collected about it, but most people would quit. You realize this, right? I mean, this isn't like something this isn't normal.
Yeah. I understand that really quick, that, you know, people at this point, as much as it's put against them, there's all this adversity happening, a lot of people would break and they would quit at this moment, you know, and they would kind of give up on whatever is going on. And I just see it as like an opportunity. The way I looked at it at that point was, it's an opportunity to really show who I am, how my heart is, the way my mind works, my mindset, the way I'm driven. It's like, and it's probably going to make a huge stamp in this world for other people to be like, well, you know what? I just can't give up. I got to go out there and I got to give every single piece of me. I got to put everything on the line.
You literally did.
And that's what I said in all my past interviews leading up to Power Slap 10, was that I'm putting everything out there on the line. I have no excuses. I know exactly what I'm going out there for. I know exactly what I'm about to do. And at the end of the day, when I go out there and I deliver my performance, I'm not going to be able to come back and say, well, it's because of this, and that's why I didn't do good. Oh, because of that, that's why I didn't do good. No excuses. You put it all on the line. You go out there and you perform, and the way you perform out there is the way it is. It has to be accepted. And I knew that really quick, that, you know, all these adverse moments in my life has led me up to that point where I was able to overcome that moment right then and there.
And you know what happened from overcoming that is now you know you have two hands.
Correct.
That's amazing.
Correct.
So that's like that is a weapon right there.
Yes.
Now you have two weapons. You have, you know, the knowledge that if push came to shove, you would be able to stay in the game. That's pretty amazing. You know, I do, when I watch Power Slap, it is amazing to me. I would imagine that would take a really big toll on your hand and your wrist. Obviously your face, but I mean, smacking with your hand, that's a lot, because it has to be on your hand. You can't use your bones. I mean, you have to smack with your hand.
Majority of the pain is going to end up being in your wrist, in your elbow, and your shoulders. Yeah. That's it. I mean, it's all the smaller joints. As you know, as you're progressing and building the slap or building the technique, you know, you have to practice it. And if you're not practicing it, and obviously not training it, you know, going out there and just having even just the basic general fitness, being able to do curls, being able to do tricep extensions, doing all these other things. If you're not doing these things, you're not building up on the muscle that you have there. So just like what we say, right? In lifting, it's if you don't use it, you lose it. And if you're not having that power behind everything that your main job is to go out there and slap somebody with your hand.
You need it.
You need it. You need all of that. You need all the experience. You need all that time in. And that's a big part of me, is that I knew coming into that Power Slap 10 and to that event that I had put down so many hours of just all hard work, dedication, leaving everything alone, zoning into where I needed to be, and just kind of living in my mind, living in my own world that whole entire time. And I've had nights where, you know, maybe 2-3 times out of the week, I would stay outside in my backyard, and everything that you've seen on that Power Slap 10 performance, from the walkout to the music that is played, to every single action, to the delivery of the slap, everything, to the moment where I walk up there and I go against Cooper Housley and I kind of gauge him with my hand and put my hand behind my head and circle it and put it on his face. That moment right there was all rehearsed in my backyard by myself. Wow. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And my wife says it too. She says, "You're crazy. What are you doing up? What are you doing outside for 2 hours?" I was like, "Well, I'm going through my routine.
Wow.
Exactly what I need to do when I go out there. And the more I practice, the more I'm going to be prepared for what's about to happen. And then all I got to do is just live it the way that I've been doing it in the backyard.
Yeah.
Once I go out there, I just got to do exactly what I was doing here, and that's going to put on the performance that I need to."
I have 2 questions for you. One is a big question. I'm going to say it for the end. But my question first is, what is your goal in Power Slap? Tell me what your ultimate goal is.
My ultimate goal in Power Slap is to, really take the sport to a different level. We've seen it where, the sport it's fairly new, 2021. Not a lot of the people that are on the Power Slap rankings or even on the roster or even just the people that are coming up into the sport, they don't have a general understanding of what they need to do to be able to train the techniques, the skill set, the mindset that's involved with this. They don't know how to put it together. And with the seasons, everybody's fairly new. I mean, you have people that are going through tragic moments in their life, a lot of trauma, addictions, drugs, homelessness, and they need this. Yeah. They need this opportunity to go through. But to go out there and not even have a general understanding of MMA, of physical fitness, of training, you don't have those things. You might have had a fight 2 years, 3 years before, and it's good, right, that you had that experience. But just like anything else, if you're not sharpening the tool every single time, well, sooner or later it's going to become dull, and you're not going to be able to have all that underneath your belt. So my main focus in Power Slap is to really change the game.
Yeah, you're paving the way.
Pave the way.
You're a trailblazer.
That's it. Is really just go out there and be able to showcase my skills and everything that I put together and the things that I do, and hopes, obviously reaching out to other people in hopes that people watch and they see and they learn and they go out there and they do the exact same thing that I'm doing, really putting it all on the line and being able to go out there and put on a show for every single person, like Dana. When I spoke to Dana, and that was a huge thing for me too, is that, Dana White I watched him move through the whole entire UFC. And, I always keep him in the back of my mind when he said, "Hey, this is your opportunity. And if you can't go out there and deliver with your left hand, it might not be bright for you."
Oh, so he gave you a pep talk.
Oh,
well, that's a little mini piece of information.
Like no other, but it was very short. It was very subtle.
But that's all it takes.
And that was it.
When someone is that high level, sometimes you just need a gem, and it can go a long way.
And you have somebody in front of you that you look up to.
But see, you're going to be that gem for other people.
That's what it is.
And it sometimes when you are that potent, you just have to give somebody the smallest gem, and it can move mountains.
That's it. And with the Power Slap, for the future of it is, I just want to be the beacon of light. The guy that's right there the whole entire time saying, "Hey, come this way.
Yeah.
Come this way. Follow me doing this stuff." So that way we can really take this to a different aspect. We need to, and Power Slap is great. They do very well with their productions. They do very well with everything else. And it's like, but we need to follow up with the professionalism.
Yeah.
When we go out there, we have to be the best versions of ourselves, put on the performance, be showmen.
You're paving the way on that.
And we have to do that, because you can't just, like we spoke about before, at this day and age, you can't be one-dimensional.
Yeah.
You have to be well-rounded.
Right.
You have to know exactly what you're going out there with, and your performance is very, very key out there.
Absolutely.
Marketing is very, very key out there. You need to be able to create your brand and create your name and kind of stamp it, so that way everybody, when they do a certain gesture or they say a certain word, well, you come up in their mind, and that's the main thing is branding in this sport. You need to really put it out. I think you're doing that
very well.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. You are on our Make Your Mark series. You are making your mark. Okay. So tell me, when you look back at your story and you think about your influence on the future generation and the current generation, how are you leaving your mark?
My main mark is that I'm going out there and being able to show everybody that you can be exactly who you are if you just put everything that you've been through and everything that you've gone through, you can hold it, but put it aside and then realize that you were sent here or put here in this world for a purpose. And your main purpose is to be the best version of yourself, to go out there and deliver exactly who you are and to figure out life the way it goes. And that was my big thing, is that I want to be that person. I wanted to make my mark in a way where I shape people and influence people to understand that you don't have to be the same way all the time. You can make the changes, just by, I like to look at it as leading by example.
Yeah. But your changes that you made is you becoming truly yourself. Sounds like maybe the mistakes that you're making in the past were not really you. Like you're finding yourself in a positive path, it sounds like.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And that's the key. It's gathering all the information together, putting everything right in front of you, and then being able to operate on that information. Your observation is very key too. You have to look around and be able to see things for what it is, and how it's not so much of how it's going to benefit you, but how is it going to work in the way where you are able to go out there and still be the best version of yourself. And then in return, it's going to help other people in the same way around. As you help others, you are going to become the best version of yourself, just because the fact that you are putting yourself out there on the line and being able to, influence the way that people think, the way that people move, and the way that people act. And, at the end of the day, I want to be looked at as a person of I went out there and I brought joy to other people in my life. Those are the two questions that we ask ourselves before we leave this world. Is that have I brought joy to myself? Is one big one. But how have I brought joy to others? And that right there is my foundation. It's my foundation. It's I know that at the end of the day, if I can leave my wife in good standings, leave my son, leave my daughter, give my main thing was like, I think that's part of the culture too, is like just having my mom being proud of me. I searched for that for a long time. And I really wanted that to be the thing. Like, hey, how am I going to do this? Am I going to become a scientist, an astronaut? What's going to happen with my life? And what kind of career choices will I make to be able to look back at, or even not even career, just life changes and life choices, to be able to look back and be like, oh, okay, well, is my mom really proud of me? And, after going out there to Power Slap 10 and doing everything else, it came back to me full force, because that was the very first time that my mom walked into my room. And she's told me she's been proud of me in many other times before, but this was probably the most important time in my life, is that she looked at me and she's like, I'm so proud of you. You're going out there and you're doing exactly what you were meant to do, exactly who you're supposed to be. Don't think that we're not proud of you.
That meant a lot to you.
And it's,
That's
making
amazing.
my mom proud, making my dad proud before. They're not getting any younger. So before they leave this world, I would at least want them to know that I love them and that I try to be the best version of myself.
I think a lot of people are proud of you. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. It's like the best feeling ever,
Yeah.
Well, I just want you to know that I'm rooting for you. We are rooting for you. You're amazing. You have an incredible story. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing it, because a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to come on here and be able to share this story and all the adverse moments and all those times of resilience and all this bounce back and setbacks and all these other things. It's a huge part for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.